Hello there. Okay, we have changed systems. I'm using Zoom record for a change. And normally I'm cheap. I use Skype. So as I always say at the start of my podcasts and interviews, beards in form today. I've actually not tied it up. It's loose. Lumberjack shirts on as normal. We've got to keep everything the same. And this talk is going to be really good and very interesting. So without further ado, please introduce yourself.
Hey, Peter, my name is Matthias Gelber. I am nicknamed the Green Man. Maybe that's why I'm wearing a green shirt. I bought this shirt 10 years ago in Malaysia. I've been wearing it all over the world, reuse it again and again and again. It might not be the most eco-friendly material, but it's super eco-efficient. And I originally come from Germany, now live with family in the Philippines, was voted greenest person on the planet, but that's subjective in terms of what people think is really green. But I try to live a low carbon lifestyle and make sure that I overall have a healing impact on the planet. So every end of the year, I calculate my carbon footprint, and I do many things to triple compensate and make sure I'm a carbon sink and a positive healing impact on the planet. So yeah, that's me.
Oh, that's good. I think that we're going to talk about this later, but I regard myself as a centrist on so many things, so we're going to have some backwards and forwards on the environmental discussion. But please also at the start as well, you have a nice, interesting logo on the right-hand side, Greenest Man, Matthias Gelber, but on the other side, you've got Avant Wood. So please tell me, what other projects are you involved with? What's your main thing at the moment besides your environmental presentations and consultancy work?
Yeah, I actually used to live in the UK for 10 years, London and surprise, Stoke-on-Trent.
Stoke-on-Trent,
And
home of the strongest man in the world.
Yeah, I was running environmental consulting and training company, helping companies with environmental management systems, ISO 14001, and supply chain engagement of smaller companies. But now I'm mainly focusing on still speaking and consulting on ESG, environment, social governance, listed companies that are rated by investment funds on their commitment towards sustainability in a broader concept. And I focus currently as well on undervalued trash wood and small diameter wood, low value wood, to be turned into high performance building materials and carbon sinks. Because we talk a lot about the Paris Agreement, and one of the things that's currently a missed opportunity is there's a lot of biomass out there, wooden biomass, that is being not used effectively as a long-term carbon sink. I mean, turning it into wood pallets is already an improvement over letting it rot in the forest, because then you have renewable energy that can displace coal. But the best that we can do is all that undervalued biomass that we have out there that is already sequestered carbon, to turn that into furniture or building material that's extremely durable. Then we will lock all of that carbon in for the next 50 to 100 years. And, in the past, we might have thought, hey, I don't want to use wood because I'm cutting down trees. But sustainably sourced wood, it's Mother Nature's ability to continuously take in the carbon. Photosynthesis, the sun is shining, the carbon dioxide gets converted into oxygen. Yeah. The more we have of that, the better it is for what we can do against climate change. So even, I think it's Forest Green Rovers, right? The most famous green football club in the world. Their plan for the next stadium will be the first completely wood-based football stadium, big stadium in the world. Why? Because that is the only way you can actually have a carbon sequestration building material as the main source of your construction project. If you would be using mainly steel or cement, you have a high carbon footprint, because cement is about 8% of the world's carbon dioxide emissions, whereas wood has sequestered carbon. Then you are emitting a little bit of carbon when you are manufacturing the engineered wood products, but it's definitely still on the carbon sink side, whereas cement is a very high carbon footprint and steel.
Sure. Well, yes, cement manufacture is very, very high. Okay, I've got you. I've got it. That makes sense. So that's the environmental part of the project, and I assume that the company's branding's what's behind you. So if you think of it on the environment, is there a financial benefit if someone was to go down the road you're talking about?
Yeah, it's actually incredible. If you look at the building behind me,
Yeah,
this
which
building
looks
is a
cool. Which does look
famous,
cool.
yeah, it's a famous sauna and restaurant in Helsinki, owned by the brother of King Harold. With your big beard, you look like a Viking. Maybe you watched the Viking series on
Suppose it
Netflix.
had the Viking gene in me, but whatever that means.
Yeah. Did you watch the Viking series on
I have
Netflix?
seen bits of it. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Actually, my mother loves it.
Yeah, there is this famous battle where King Harold and his brother are on opposite sides, and it's one of the most epic scenes in Viking series. The music is incredible, and
Yeah,
then
music
King
was good at
Harold
it.
finally kills his brother. So
Yep,
that
yep. I know
guy,
the bit.
his brother, is a Finnish actor who wanted the most eco-friendly sauna and restaurant in the world. So
Yeah.
he told people, get me the most eco-friendly wood. And the wood that you see there, the cladding on the outside in Scandinavia, is considered trash wood.
Okay.
It was bought for about 20 euro a cubic meter.
Yeah.
And then it was turned into dimensionally stable cladding that can withstand sun, rain, salt water, high
So that's
temperature,
interesting. Salt
low
water.
temperature. This material is already 6 years in that extreme weather environment just on the coast in Helsinki, and it's dimensionally exactly 100% like what it was originally with the CNC designed to be. This is made from low quality pine wood that otherwise is only good enough for wood pallets or pulp. So it was bought for 20 euro a cubic meter roughly,
Yeah.
and it was sold back to the project after its transformation with the Avant Wood technology, which is a combination of densification and thermal modification and fast
Okay.
drying. There's a very funny part of the story when Pekka Ritvan and the CTO came to see the Finnish actor and his team for the project. They told him, "We love your suggestion, but you're too late. Next week, we have to decide on the material. You can't have samples ready because it will take you at least 2 weeks to get the wood dried before you
Right.
can process it." And then Pekka told them, "No, we do everything in one shot, drying, mechanical densification, and thermal modification. And the thermal modification gives it extreme long-term durability. It's a little bit like you're charcoaling the wood to make it dimensionally stable so that it doesn't expand or contract anymore. Guitars nowadays are made from thermally modified wood because then you don't need to tune them anymore, even though the temperature is different. Normally, the wood
Yeah.
would expand or
Expand
contract.
and shrink. Yeah, and
Yeah,
then it pulls and expands the strings as well. Okay, that makes
yeah.
sense. Okay, got it.
So these guys said, "Hey, you can't meet the deadline. It's next week." Pekka told them, "Don't worry. I'm going to get small diameter pine from the forest where I have our machine, and I will dry it and process it over the weekend, and you will get the samples next week. Plus, for the interior, we use waste material from plywood production. Plywood, you have those thin layers. They are cut from round logs, and you put them on top of one another. Then the middle of the log, the small diameter, is the waste material that is low value. People use it for fencing or something like that. The interior furniture in this building and the interior cladding is made from that birch plywood waste and the outside. And it was extremely cheap to buy it. And it was sold back into the project for, my maths is not very good, but purchase price about 20 euro per cubic meter, sales price 700 euro per cubic meter. So just imagine what margins there is.
Yeah.
This is a classical example of turning a low value raw material into an extremely high performance, high value product.
Yeah.
So
You value
that's
add.
why
Yeah.
this technology has such an amazing future, you can get your money back on buying the machine after about 1.5 to 2 years if you really run it very efficiently, even faster, which is an incredible return. And then you're basically printing money from there on after.
Okay.
So this is a unique opportunity. Avant Wood is actually focusing on the machine and the technology. So anyone could step up and say, I want to set up this business in the UK. I want to set up, and I'm sure, you know, if you would be talking to someone like Dale, the guy who owns Forest Green Rovers, I'm not sure where he's going to source his raw material now, but you will tell him this exists. Instead of you cutting mature trees from a forest, we can use trash wood and turn it into the building blocks of your new stadium. Yeah. Wouldn't that be a very, very attractive proposition?
Okay, fine. Good. I actually think that makes a lot of sense, especially when, you know, people like a football team, for example, has got stacks of money and they want to obviously still make more money. That could be a side business for them. Okay, here's proof of the pudding here, this stadium. Now they can start supplying this really, really cool product. Okay, good. Well, it's good to know. Good to know. Let's get on to the more juicy stuff now.
This is juicy already, man. There's a lot of money in it.
That.
Maybe some of your friends want to bring this to the UK, Peter. So I'm ready to get their calls. Definitely. This is actually, when you think about it, and just to add one sentence to it, in North America, particularly now as well, people are starting to realize the small diameter wood is one of the main risks of the fires that have happened. Because if you don't properly thin them and take that small diameter wood out, the fire spreads much faster if you have that unvalued biomass. That's been identified in a couple of studies. So there is a huge future for this technology. And we have the mass timber movement. More and more buildings will be made from timber, because that's the only way we can achieve the Paris Agreement in construction. So even though the cement guys don't like to hear it, but there is a shift going on, and you know, we all need to get ready for it. And cement and steel need to completely decarbonize, otherwise it has very limited future in construction in the future.
Well, here's another thing. I suppose it's another important point, which I suppose you could bring up when you're talking about this, is that one of the largest exporters of wood in the world is Russia. So if you do need wood, it's going to be in quite short supply. So what you're offering is, this is already wood in the supply chain. This is already wood that's destined to be just got rid of. So make use of it, because it's in short supply.
Spot on, 100% spot on. We can turn the small pieces, make them dimensionally stable, densify them to turn the sapwood into high quality wood. And then you profile it, use eco-friendly glue to glue it together. And then you've got incredible raw material that you can use for any type of application. Spot on.
Good. Oh, there you go. You can add that to your pitch. Yes. Right. Okay. So let's get more onto what the juicy part of what individuals are. So we hear lots about, you know, global warming, environmental change, climate change. I mean, at our grand old age, it's given about 4 different names, but there is something definitely happening. And the bone of contention, is it us that's doing it? Is it natural? But let's try and just say it is us doing it. So Peter, as an individual, just me, give me 2 or 3 things that I can do to try and help as an individual climate change.
Yeah, one thing is your electricity bill. It costs you money, and it's going to cost even more with the current context, or your fuel bill. That is all carbon footprint. So if you become more efficient, reduce your electricity consumption, shift to renewables, or even reduce your fuel consumption, you're saving money and you're helping to reduce your carbon footprint. That's number one. Then the things you buy. I mean, generally, do we need to buy all of the stuff that we are currently buying? Because a lot of things end up as waste very quickly, but especially food items. You know, can you shift to more vegetarian, vegan type of diet, and move away from the red meat as much as possible? I'm not really a full-blown vegan, so I can't, I'm not judging people. Nobody is perfect. I'm not perfect, but I make sure at the end of each year, my carbon footprint is triple, quadruple compensated. So I am living a low carbon lifestyle, and at the same time, I calculate my carbon footprint. I have planted, I have contributed to planting more than 100,000 trees, and I've made carbon credit, tree planting, life credit. I have a eco-friendly pension system in Panama that is 4 hectares of biodiversity. So you could even invest in something that takes carbon out.
Now that's a different thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good.
yeah. Strategically, my pension system in 2005, when I had a bit of spare cash, I went to a German green investment finance exhibition, and I selected what I thought was the most exciting project, which was basically owning land in Panama and owning a forest in Panama that will then be selectively harvested, never clear cut. So there will always be trees, there will always be animals and biodiversity, but those trees, they include teak, mahogany, very high value trees, will make money and will generate a pension income. So those are some of the things that you can do. And just, based back on your question, I think we've always had a natural fluctuation of the climate, but now we have 7 billion people within a short period of time taking out of the Earth's crust the millions of tons of coal, petrol, and gas that has taken the planet millions of years to accumulate and sequester. And we are basically reintroducing that within a short period of time in a very unsustainable way back into the atmosphere. That's why we humans are currently the main reason negatively influencing those, those little ups and downs of natural behavior. And when I was a kid in Germany, I had 4 months of solid snow. If there was stuff coming down in January, February, or March, it was more snow. Now my brother's kids, rain one day, snow the next day, they can hardly go skiing anymore. I could ski every day from January to March in my youth, all my life when I grew up there. So I can see a massive shift in climate patterns in my little village in Germany. Just to start there, beside all many other, but there's not everything is down to climate change, but there is a big significant influence and impact.
So let's do that. I like to do always a roundup, because one of my problems in my professional life is when I talk to people, I expect them to know what I already know. So when I say it, it's kind of like, well, just go do that, and they're going to automatically know what it means. So I've learned over time to retrospectively go back and reassess every group of a conversation so everyone's aware, because not everyone knows as much as you do. So first of all is altering your bills and what you pay. So yes, go to a green supplier, but then also, and I always like to give, basic information. Switch the light off in the day. Something like that. Go around your house, switch all the lights off. Also, on your mains wall, in some countries, you have a main socket on and off. In Asia, there's not that many, but in the West there is. Switch everything off if you're not using it, because that carries a charge. Yeah. And the final one, which I've heard of before, is your television has a standby light. I mean, it's only small, but a standby light over 5 years constantly being on when you're not watching the TV. Unplug it out the mains, so your standby light's not on. So do something to lower your bills, and in turn, it's lowering the amount of electricity that's being used, and in turn, that helps the environment. Okay. Next one is food waste, which I have spoken to you the few times I've spoken to you about. I am an avid person in regards to food waste. I personally do what's called in the UK yellow sticker shopping, which is that it's food that's gone past its best before. Now, of course, that means my weekly spend, is much cheaper than most people's that don't do that. But what it also means is generically that food is probably going to be thrown away at some point, and I can make use of it. So why should it be thrown? And okay, it's not the environmental part alone. Waste is just, well, strange enough, wasteful and not good. That makes sense. Yeah.
Totally agree. When I used to be living in Uxbridge, I was living opposite the local Sainsbury's, and I knew exactly at the time when the yellow stickers were coming on. So spot
Then you
on.
got to do it.
This is
There
very
actually are
good practice.
suppliers in the UK now. I'll name one of them called Rogers, but there's quite a few. They're like warehouses.
Mm,
They only stock after best before date food. You
wow.
have to buy in bulk, like you buy like
Mm,
10 boxes of noodles or 30 bags of pasta. It's
mm,
all plastics used by date. And the one you brought up just then at the end of your three, which I think is great and I never thought about, is if you're going to invest, like in a pension, find a green pension fund,
yeah.
find something that your money's going to go into. Okay, gives you a return, but also is environmentally friendly and does something good for the environment. I like that. First time I've heard that one, but it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Very good. Let's jump on to the next one. We've done an individual. So let's say now I'm the MD of a small, medium enterprise, not a corporate because they've got their own way of doing it, but like a small company, it doesn't have a vast amount of knowledge. Can you give them 2 or 3 things that they could do to help the environment as well?
Yeah. Yeah. Same like on a personal level, look at your fuel and electricity bill or material bill. I remember working with a supplier for automotive in Stoke-on-Trent, and they'd never done the calculations, but I went with them through the numbers for them to realize 70% of the raw material they are buying in ends up in their waste
It's
bin.
crazy.
Yeah, they were continuously changing the color of the harnesses. They were basically manufacturing for the automotive the electrical cables, and they were getting a new batch. It needs to be this color. They changed the color, so a lot of their coating for those cables was all going to waste. So I told them, you got to change the way you communicate with your customers. You got to actually get them to give you more advanced notice, give them an incentive to order higher volume batches in the same color. So you
Sure.
don't have to continuously change. And then, your fuel, your electricity bills, standard, try and focus on that. But here it gets exciting. Identify existing customers or lost customers or want to get customers, especially if they are listed companies, and read their sustainability report and look at what they are trying to achieve. And then tailor your next sales pitch, how you can help them with your product or your service to deliver their sustainability or ESG targets. Then you're on a winner. Then you have something that they get excited about. Then you are understanding your customers' needs. And it's
Sure.
all there. And hardly anyone is doing this because people have not made the link between sales and sustainability. But there are some big boys out there that have already said, and people haven't woken up yet, like Microsoft, by 2030, they want to be climate neutral. They want to be more than climate neutral. They want to be a carbon sink. And this includes all of their supply chain.
Of course, you got to be in the supply chain, of course. Yeah, yeah.
Boom. So if you are offering Microsoft a climate neutral service that nobody else is offering them yet, surely they will want to know more. Whereas otherwise, you might not even get your foot into the door because you have nothing to offer that would get them excited, because
No,
101 other people are offering exactly that same service.
where's the deal clincher, I suppose, isn't it? We can buy XYZ off company over here, and they're just a standard company, or buy exactly the same product, same service, same price, but they're carbon neutral. They're going to
Yeah,
go for the carbon neutral option straight away, aren't they? So yeah, you're right.
definitely.
But then feed it into your pitch beforehand, so you're already there as soon as you hit
Yeah,
them. We're fully aware of this. We know this is what you're doing. It's part of our nature. It's part of what we do. It's already a perfect match. So let's sign the document now and stop
yeah.
wasting time.
Construction industry,
Yeah,
people want to use low carbon materials.
yeah.
In the future, suppliers will be selected by their carbon footprint, not just by their price. And other sectors, certain toxic chemicals, wood, a lot of wood is being preserved by CCA. This contains arsenic. People are still using
Yeah.
it. And, this will not be palatable in the future. So make the change now, adjust it, and use eco-friendly solutions or processing technologies like our Avant Wood, where we don't need any chemicals additives to get that durability that we can have. So there are loads of opportunities for you. You just need to connect the dots and look at things strategically.
And that's one of the things I've been saying in some of my videos recently, is just that people have so many constraints in their work environment right now. They've lost the ability to think strategically. They're reactive workspaces. You know, when you got 5,000 control systems and KPIs saying you need to walk and talk in this particular way, you're focused on them, not your ability to look forward and to be creative to make a business happen. And yeah, I think throwing little nuggets out there like that, especially the environmental part, makes a lot of sense. It's something I didn't think about, so it was appreciated. Right, let's jump on to the next one. Semi-controversial. We sort of hit on it. I myself am. I'm not an anti-environmentalist. I'm not a naysayer, but I'm not super green like your good self. I sit on the fence on a lot of things in my life. But one of the things I always say is everybody wants to live in a clean home, and the planet is our home. So we need to try our best, even if we do or do not believe in global warming or climate change. You know, we want to keep it clean. What would you say as an expert in this about people that are climate change deniers? And I'm not, what I want you to do is not give it an overall thing. I want you to say, give me one or two specifics. It can be just the one that you know is affecting an individual on an individual level.
I think earlier I mentioned that example of my village where the climate has completely changed. I think as well, the occurrence of COVID is somewhat linked to the way how we've been treating the environment. I mean, we have been pushing back natural space for biodiversity. And biodiversity, apparently, you know, it originally came from animals. You know, there are connections between the state of the environment and diseases that we increasingly see happening, where there is a connection between, you know, the problematic treatment of the natural environment, the lack of natural balance that we give to the natural environment, and diseases that might derive from those circumstances, in addition to the big mega threat of climate change, which kind of you know, is creeping in slowly, and we might not see it, but I see it in my little village in terms of how the climate has completely changed there. And you see it sometimes in crops that have been able to flourish in the UK now that might not have flourished in the UK 30 or 40 years ago.
That's actually a good point. Yeah. And because where I live, it's a very heavy canal area, masses of canals. And there was a small report I saw of a type of Mexican weed that's turned up that previously was unable to live here, but the same because of rising temperatures. The canal is full of this weed and killing off the local fish population.
Yeah. So those are the little things that are creeping in. And if we don't step back and think about it, like, how come this is happening here now? It wouldn't have happened 40, 50 years ago. There are those changes in our natural environment that are either a consequence of slightly changing climate massively influenced by human action, or even less and less natural balance for biodiversity to have its healthy coexistence with humans, where there might be additional consequences of more and more unhealthy coexistence.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Right. You know me. I'm a convert of your knowledge. I always the few times we've spoken together about these, you know, interesting areas, I always learn more. It's always good for me because, as I says, I am a centrist on so much. And as I said, as far as I'm concerned, I don't care whether it's real or true or happening or not. We should all do our part anyway. We live here.
Yep.
So I clean my carpet every morning. You know, the way the front doorstep needs to be cleaned because I want to live somewhere clean. This planet is where we live, so why make it dirty? My personal thing that I feel very strong about when it comes to the environment is the plastic in the sea. I mean, that just drives me nuts,
Mm,
regardless of whether you believe in climate change or not, and whether the carbons are making these problems, that problems, whether it's a cow dropping methane out of its backside. We know that our sea is full of plastics and it's in our food chain right now. That is
yeah,
awful. And I think if we could do anything, I've read things about guys that have created or spliced together forms of funguses that eat plastics and hope that that might get rid of it. There's also various teams have like technology that sweeps up the plastics, but all that's doing is moving it to somewhere else for us to
mm,
then burn it. So, but it's too late. It's in our food system already in the
yeah.
sea. And I'm just, that's really bad. That really, really got me, that one did. Okay, right. So we're going to wrap this up. So I like to keep these to 30 to 45 minutes. And I know you're extremely busy. And before we started this, you told me you're away from home. So I'm sure you got meetings to do as well. So I appreciate your time. And the last question I want to give you is two parts. One, obviously, you spoke about Avant Wood, which I think is really, really, really cool. And the second one is you are a consultant for hire. So if somebody wants to contact you because they want your time and to help them become more environmentally friendly, because as we all should be, how do people contact you?
It's very easy to find me because there's only one guy with that name. Just Google Matthias Gelber. Send me a connection request on LinkedIn is an easy way to find me. You can go on greenmanspeaks.com. That's my website, a little bit out of date, but you can contact me there as well. So you'll definitely find me. Just make sure you have the double T and H in my name when you put it into a search engine. So yeah, looking forward to hear from you. And we definitely have good opportunities both on the Avant Wood front or the general environmental or sustainability improvement front. I give a lot of talks as well, motivational talks for companies
Well,
on
I
how
actually
they can
saw
do
you
this.
first on your TED speeches you do.
Yeah, yeah.
Super, super. All right, in that case, then, Matthias, awesome speaking with you. I really enjoyed it as always. As I enjoy seeing your speeches, and everything you say is very, very interesting. And I think everyone in the world should really start to pay attention to this. And so I'll say thank you very much for being on my podcast today, and speak to you soon.
My pleasure, Peter. Always great to speak to you. Cheers,
Okay, bye
man.
bye.